one of these days we're going to do a full podcast episode and forget to hit record.
That does sound like us.
Welcome to episode 2 of the Dino and Ashley Take It to 11 Arrows and Bow super long name podcast.
It's not even the name of the podcast. Episode 2 of Designed to Last, Taking it to 11.
We've had a week. I think this was a good week, you know?
Very good.
Yeah, we got some clarity on some of the stuff that was going on in our lives with housing, and we got some clarity on some stuff that we've had to deal with the mercantile, and I feel things are going really well in life right now. It's always nice to kind of just sit down with you and have a second just to talk.
You're talking about me or the people?
You.
I know.
I feel like this morning even you and I are sitting, I'm taking a shower and trying to like unload some like deep thought I've had in my head, and like I'm halfway through it and I'm like right about to hit this amazing spot, and then a child comes running in. And immediately Ash's reaction is, "Don't come in, I'm naked."
That's what I always say if I'm naked or not.
I know. It's like, Rick, just give us 1 second.
That's my nightmare.
But we are in a phase, and I feel like a lot of people are always giving us that kind of sentiment as well, that they're in a phase. So no, you are not alone. I thought it'd be fun to start off with like little rapid fires of anything that you and I feel like we kind of like picked up this week.
Yeah, little hot. What you called it something the other night?
Hot takes.
Oh, I was like hot tracks.
Yeah, I have a lot of like ideas in the evenings. You know, it's like middle of the night. I
try to write them down
I got a freaking idea
on my phone.
I'll be sitting. Yeah, I do the same thing. I'll like try and rip through it.
And then I'll look at them in the morning. I'll be like, "What were we talking about?"
I write it down.
Yeah,
write it down. That's what I do.
Okay, so our hot takes. What are our hot tracks?
Yeah. What do you hot tracks? What do you feel like was there any major kind of thing that?
I know there was one specifically that we talked about, and that's what brought up the hot tracks. They have to be called hot tracks now.
It's gonna drive me crazy calling it hot tracks. All right, what do you remember what it was?
I had said something to you that like really, really filled you up and made you feel like adored.
The reason why this was, I think, specifically impactful to me, this moment that Ash and I had the other day, was that it was in contrast to another relationship, and more realistically, our previous relationship, like in times past, where neither one of us really put a whole lot of effort or thought or intentionality into what fills my spouse up. Like, what is the thing that my spouse needs today? And I would, being married to Ash, I would say it changes every single day, which keeps it spicy.
You're welcome. But that's the same for you.
No, it is. It's totally true. I'd say that there's definitely like a foundational layer of like consistent things that I always want and need. But the things that I need in the moment are always going to be kind of like shifting.
And that's kind of what we want too, because that means that we're growing. Yeah. You know, but we want to just grow together.
Yeah. But we were sitting together and Ash just like looked over at me and she said something that like verbally was like a pick me up. I don't even remember what it was. But man, in the moment, I was just like gushing. I was just like, man,
I think it was more because it was like in the midst of other things, I stopped and I like noticed you, you know? It wasn't just like we were just sitting there. It was like in the midst of other things. It was like a halt and a stop and a like going out of my way to say something. Yeah.
Which in times past, I've definitely like came to you and been like, I don't feel like you see me, you know? And like that what you just said is exactly that. It's like you like paused whatever was going on in life and like the total storm and chaos, and you just like looked over me and you're like, I see you.
Yeah. Because I've talked about that before, like even online. There was a couple, I mean, I feel like it's been my whole entire life and marriage. It's just the way that I am. I get going on something and I become like a machine, and like specifically like a project, let's say, or something, a task around the house. I get my mind on something and I have to do it and I have to finish it now. Like it needs to be done in the next few hours. There's no tomorrow. There's no drawing it out over the next few days. So anything that comes in my way is in my way and is an irritant, you know? Yeah. And then a couple of Christmases ago, we took an Instagram break and just really like focused on the Sabbath. And I was painting something, doing a project, and Dino came up to me and said, he's like, oh, can I have a kiss? And I was like, I just like, ugh, I don't have time. I'm painting this thing.
And it was in like a moment where I was not mentally necessarily doing very well. And I like, it hit home hard. And it was like totally, like she wasn't being intentional, obviously.
It was terrible though. I mean, when I think about it now, I'm like, and I'm sure anybody listening is like, really? Your attractive husband wants a kiss from you? Why would you not just stop, you know? And exactly, why couldn't I stop? And it was something that I had to like process and go, why am I not able to just stop and see what's going on around me? I'm so narrow-minded and one focus that I'm actually like neglecting my family or my children because I feel like I've set a standard or a bar for myself that if I fail, then what, who cares if I don't get it done in a couple of hours, you know? But everything around me was like crumbling. So
Friday at the end of the day, I was coding something that was incredibly complex, like mentally. And you stopped me right in the middle of it and you wanted to have a conversation about something. And I was like, I really want to talk with you about this, but I have got something structured in my mind and I'm going to lose it if I don't.
No, but that's different. Like there's things that when you're in the mode and the process and your brain is writing something or coding, we both said that. Like you do need to finish that. Otherwise it's gone. It's lost. And you don't want to interrupt that rhythm. You know the difference of what we're talking about. What I'm talking about. I know. You're just as bad as me. No, you're good. You don't need to make yourself look bad.
I think it's fair. I definitely.
No, it was definitely my thing. You've never struggled with that. It's been my thing, and I feel like I've gotten better with it, but because I'm aware of it now, at least, and I feel like I wasted so many like sweet moments.
The funny thing is we were talking about how I basically did that for the first decade of our marriage.
So you taught me how to do it.
Yeah. I was the instigator. I was I was the initial person that made some very bad decisions. Thank you for being patient. Just saying, you know.
You're welcome.
All right, so that was a fun little hot take. Let's kind of move into some of the structure of what we were kind of wanting to talk about this week. I think this is really important, and I think that's important in marriage. So together, and I also think it's important as an individual. And what this is that we're talking about here is the importance of having goals and some vision, something in front of you that you are intentionally thinking about and wanting to be pushing towards. Why don't you kind of give a rundown of what that looks like for you and I in our marriage when you and I decide, hey, we need to take a beat and we need to go and get things.
Well, I think once we decided to finally do that, it looked like something. There was a lot of years we didn't do that at all. And it was me more dreaming and Dino just being like, no. And it was hard because when I look back now, it's not that I wanted to do everything. I just wanted to I did want to just dream together, you know? I want to just talk about it together and feel like you were coming alongside with me in my thoughts sort of thing, you know?
Yep.
And
what's funny is that I actually, in hindsight now, we're looking like, let's just say this is the first 12 or 10 years of our marriage. I had a dream. I knew exactly what my goal was, but I didn't share it with you. I didn't bring you on. I didn't find compromise. I didn't bring you alongside to do it with me. I didn't find any way to hey, what are you interested in? Are you on the same page? It was all about, for me, my career and getting us out of debt. I wanted to be like Dave Ramsey, Gordon Ramsay.
But also a little bit like Gordon Ramsay.
Little Gordon Ramsay. I'd say I'm half Gordon Ramsay and half Dave Ramsey. No, but I was hardcore on this whole Dave Ramsey effect of I want to pay off the car and then I want to pay off this and pay off this and then we'll be debt free and then everything will be amazing. In my head, I was just single focused on that. You know?
For sure. Your goal was your goal, and I didn't even have a part in it. Really. It was this is what we were doing.
Yep.
Well, once we did start to come together on that, and I guess what was the biggest shift you think that brought us together?
The instigator was we sold absolutely everything and moved into a trailer, and I was like, all my goals, all my dreams, everything I've basically been thinking about up until this point is just been reset. So I need to come up with something new. And I don't want to do that by myself anymore.
Yeah.
That's not fun. I think at the same time, you effectively let me kind of have the freedom to go to the logical conclusion of what's it like to go 100% Dino. And I was like, whoa, there's nobody like restraining me from this anymore. Ash isn't like trying to stop me anymore. She's just been like, I'm going to go hands off. If you want to do this, I'm going to back you up, whatever it is. And I was like, whoa, that's a lot of freaking responsibility. And at the same time, I'm like, oh, right at that time, I was like, I remember like Quinn was right about to be born. And I was like, holy cow, this is like, at the time I thought this is my last kid and I'm my third kid, my last one. And I'm like doubled down on my career and I'm rocking like 70-hour work weeks. I'm like, whoa, let's maybe take one extra second here and like think through some of the life choices I've made, you know?
Yeah.
And that caused me at least to be like, okay, maybe we don't do this. Maybe we try something different. And then I was like, all right, well, what would that difference kind of look like? And I think that started you and I remember we sat in that trailer. I think we lost internet because all we had was those little pucks, and we had like 3 gigs of data every month. And that was, as it was done, you got throttled and we had nothing.
It was a sweet time.
And you and I just kind of sat there and it was like,
oh, we have to talk now.
We have to. Yeah. And I'm like, well, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
Oh, I distinctly remember we would carry chairs up to the top of the land and we would just be like, all right, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And the funny thing is like in hindsight now, you look back at the things that you and I were dreaming about, and I honestly think they were irrelevant. It didn't even matter because the things we were dreaming about and the things that you and I were trying to get on the same page was like, we're going to build a house and then we're going to have a pool over here and we're going to be able to look over this area and it'll be such a beautiful view and things like that. Like we were like planning our ways, you know? I actually don't care what it is that is the net result of things. But if we push down that path and we're together, that's what I care about.
Yeah. We just end up we get to do it together.
That's it.
And then through that, we get to grow together.
Yeah.
So going back to how do we do that? How do we grow together or create like a vision or goal for one another?
So most recently, what's that look like for you and I?
Most recently, I mean,
the last time you and I decided to push a reset and go like create this a new setup in our minds of what we're going to do.
I mean, just really, really going on the most recent one. I feel like the first thing we do is we gather together somehow and we talk. And we talk about our, where we're at, how we're feeling, and kind of where we want to go. What would things look like if we went this way?
Yeah. Even down to like the day to day.
Yeah.
So I would say it was in Tulum when you and I were, we needed an ability to drown out the noise, shut the noise off, and be able to like very much have an intimate connection. And that meant that like we need to go away for a minute.
I would agree with you, but I also think like recently, like just like with all the stuff that's gone on with the house and all that like even just like we're going for a walk on, through the neighborhood and we're talking and we're reconnecting.
It could easily be that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or sitting outside together on a lounge chair, just whatever it is to not be distracted. I mean, we have 4 kids. They're kind of always around. But also it is really good for us to just have this one-on-one. Even something that we love to do too is, we've mentioned this before in the book, like taking a bath together. You're stripping away everything. You're naked and you're super vulnerable. So we called that like the year of the bathy. It was a time for us to really, really connect and talk. Yeah. Or we love sitting at a bar, like on a corner at a bar, because we can get really, really close. And we can like talk in each other's ears, make out. Like it's just like a really intimate spot. We found more than sitting at a table across from each other, even next to each other. It's kind of awkward. If we sit at the corner of a bar, we can like we've had some really good conversations in bars.
Yeah, that's true.
Hey, it doesn't matter where it is. It's just like wherever your thing is with your spouse, go to that place. Whatever you need to do, if it's in your closet, if it's in your bed or on a special chair, just whatever you need to do to be able to talk with one another and dream together.
Yeah. So for getting into more specifics of what even that conversation kind of looks like, if let's just say you're like struggling to be able to be like, well, all right, well, how do I get my spouse to do this kind of thing? I would say like, all right, let's just set aside a second, like start the conversation off with like, hey, let's set aside a second together to just talk about like, number one, what does our currently daily structure look like? Like what, right? Because it comes down to like, What do I want my day to look like? What do I want my weeks to look like? Months? What do I want the next 5 years, 10 years to kind of look like, right? Like that's the gist of this type of conversation, making sure that whatever you're doing it with intentionality. Because the worst thing that you can do, which I very much vouch that we have been in this position, is doing things just because you've done them. I wake up every day, I go at my computer, I do my computer, and then I go to sleep. And I do that every single day. And then all of a sudden a decade goes by and you're like, wait, what have I been doing? And why have I been doing it, right? Even when Ash and I are intentional about things, we'll structure what our days look like and our weeks look like, and et cetera. And then we'll get into a groove. And then a year will go by and be like, whoa, is our life and the decisions we're making in the day-to-day in alignment with ultimately like the longer term kind of like goals and aspirations that we really want to have? Is what's our hierarchy of importance, which I'm going to always kind of go back to, is like my relationship with the Lord, my relationship with Ash, our relationship with our kids. Those are like items 1, 2, and 3 on our list. Ash and I we are goal oriented even in like our career, like not careers, but like what we're pushing towards and our goals, our financial goals, our kingdom-based goals and things like that, right? Like those are absolutely things that we want to be on the same page on. And to ensure that the structure of what we're pushing towards is correct, we take time by ourselves. Ash said like it can be something simple as a walk or like a dinner. It could be a major reset where we just need to get away for like a few days, right? Because sometimes that we have been in the phase where like we've been in a really big rut and we have struggled to just even get our connection back. Mm-hmm. And like being away like that on vacation or just even at a hotel for a few nights where we can like just shut everything off and remember, hey, I really just like you as a person and I want to be able to do things with you.
Yeah.
You know? And then from there, what we do is we will just say, hey, like, you tell me, and I won't interrupt her. I won't stop her unless it's like an attempt to like riff on one of her ideas and we can kind of like play together on something. Mm-hmm. And same goes for me. Like she'll allow me to just be like, hey, what is it that is important to you? And what do you kind of want to be going after right now?
And I have to chime in on this because I feel like people are asking this question right now.
Yeah.
What my husband just shuts me down when I say what I want. Or my wife doesn't want to do the things that I want to do.
Yeah.
Or something else you just said, you know, I really, really like you and I want to be with you. People don't like their spouse.
A little bit one way. Yeah. I totally get it.
But going back to the other one with like we said, when we first got married, that we were not like this. It was a no. We would argue about it. Mm-hmm. There was no room to even talk about each other's dreams or, you know, the goals or whatever. It was just like, I'm doing what I'm doing. And you're doing what you're doing. And that's it. And I don't want to be a part of it. I don't like doing that. You know, like that's the general, I think, thought. We're selfish humans and our flesh is selfish. And if you can remove that, and if your spouse is the one that has that, you know, praying for them and going and trying to show them by example and with a soft, you know, touch. But if we can remove that selfishness and just have that vulnerability to just talk openly and to hear one another, it's not like you're setting plans in stone. You're just talking. And you're dreaming together and you're praying together and you're hearing one another. And just the act of doing those things draws you closer together.
Yeah. Most of the time when I get put into situations where I see something that is wrong in you. So like, I'm going to basically put myself in the position of the person who's like, my husband won't do this or my wife won't do this with me. More often than not, the speck I see in your eye is nowhere near as the log that's in mine. Mm. And the reality of it is what I need to do in those types of scenarios is instead of saying, I want to dream with you and this is all my dreams, I should come to you and just be like, I want to hear your dream. Mm-hmm. I just want to hear, what is it that you have? Because maybe I am being a little too much and maybe I'm not wanting to just like hear your perspective in what it is that you kind of want to be going through. Because maybe you do have something. Like if you would have come to me when I was like hardcore on the financial vision, like I was like all about our finances and all about like my career, like it would have actually been really impactful for you to just come to me and be like, hey, and in that scenario, I was in the wrong, but just to like play a fun game here. You could have easily come to me and been like, I want to hear what it is that you want to do, because I specifically want to do everything I can to be on the same page as you and like do this with you. Yeah. Right? Like, can you imagine like, whoa, that would have been because that's like a big responsibility like put on me.
Absolutely.
Then. It's just like, whoa, now my spouse is asking me what it is that I want to do so that they can back me up. Well, the words that are going to come out of my mouth better be fairly intentional right now.
Right.
I better be like picking something that's actually impactful because they want to actually get on board. They want to get in the car and go somewhere with me.
Yeah.
You know, and maybe that is like a valid destination they want to go down, or maybe not. But like, then at that phase, it's like, okay, well, number one, I'm going to do everything I can to get on board with you. And number two, I'm going to ask God to put my heart in alignment with yours. And number three, I'm going to ask at the same time that God then aligns your heart with, or, you know, my spouse's heart with a godly desire.
I think that our flesh wants everything to be about us. And so to have that reaction, if you were to come to me with that, I'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
Like how could that not soften you?
Right?
You know?
Right? Like, how do you not like take walls down?
Right.
And I think that that's a huge part of like this whole like take it to 11 kind of mentality of like, hey, I want more in my relationship.
That's the more right there, because anybody can be together, be married, go, we plan, we have goals, we plan trips together, we do this, you know, you can do things, but are you doing it together?
Yeah.
Like, are you at each other's like cores?
Yeah.
And that, I think you just hit that. Like, that is how you get a layer deeper.
Yeah. I was actually talking with a buddy 3 days ago, and he came to me and he's like, hey, I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should go this way in my life or if I should go this other way in my life. Right. And I was like, and he's married, has kids. And one of his main like desires is to make sure that whatever he's going to do, he's going to do it with the intention of trying to create more of a family unit. And I'm like, I love where your intentionality is behind this. Let's just unpack this for a second. I firmly believe in this scenario, and this being a little bold, God doesn't care which direction you specifically choose. If he really does, then it's not going to matter. You're going to pick something, God's going to divert you back to the other direction. We serve a sovereign God. But at the same time, your desire is to be in alignment with God. So if God tells you to go do something, go do it. But if he's basically giving you a fork in the road, the right answer here is to serve the first most thing you said, which is, I want to be on the same page with my wife and I want to be closer with her and going and doing the next thing. Pump brakes for a sec. Go get a night alone with your wife. That was my advice to him. I said, go take off with your girl, go spend a night with her, figure out what it is that is most important to you guys both together. Figure out what your life, your day-to-day would potentially look like. Figure out what is it around you in a community that you potentially want. Like what is important to both of you. And if you guys are on the same page, it doesn't matter which way you go. It doesn't matter. You can go to this way, you can stay here, or you can go over there. It doesn't matter because you guys are going to be doing it together as a unit. That to me is success.
Yeah.
You know?
While seeking after the Lord.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. There's also individual goals that I wanted to kind of like express here because I wanted specific things that are basically selfish out of our marriage. As like a human, some of my base desires are to be like physically closer with you. And that was like, I looked at our marriage like, I don't know, 10 years ago. And it was like, we were physically ish close, but I really wanted more. And I wanted like more depth. And I didn't want to just like get off. I wanted like depth of physical intimacy with you. You know, I wanted it to be very like stripped down and raw in terms of like how close I was with you. You know, that was one of the things that I said, just being like open and honest and vulnerable here. That was one of the things I said when Ash and I initially started these, like, what is the next phase of our marriage? Like what is like a goal that you and I have that we want to push towards? And if like, if I'm being honest on this, that was a hugely important thing for me. I said, I wanted to be physically closer with you.
And that took me a long time to understand.
Yeah.
But
I would also say there is about 1 million prerequisites in a marriage to basically have that like pinnacle, that cherry on top.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
And I think that's probably one of the reasons why it took a long time for you to understand.
Yeah.
Was that I was not doing the other prerequisites to make it so that like you and I were stripped down and you were vulnerable.
Right. Like me. Could feel comfortable. And well, I feel like this could be an entire podcast. And
I think it will be. I think what I wanted to just make sure we kind of touch on was that like there are absolutely like quote unquote, I wouldn't say selfish, but like there are needs that a woman has or as an individual has I wouldn't even say a woman. Yes, a lot of them can fall into like girls prefer these types of things that they would want, and guys. So here's another example is that like there's someone recently that's been in our life and she's expressed, hey, I just really wish my husband would give me like specific validation on things that I would want. And that's an area that like a lot of girls, I would say, a lot of women, they want. Men need it too, but I would say like women especially, like that's what they hunger for from their husband, right? And it's like, well, yeah, that is not always a natural and easy inclination for a man to have, is to be like, hey, I'm going to understand that my wife has these needs and I'm going to fill them up. And a lot of times there's prerequisites for a man to take his walls down to give that type of validation, you know? So I think one of the main reasons why we started a podcast with, hey, an intro to start, and now we're talking about like a goal and aspirational type things, is to like, let's all dream about what it could be like. And the reason why you want to start dreaming for what things could be like is because once you have a vision for where you want to go, it becomes real easy to start making sacrifices to get there. Yeah. Right? Because like the definition of the word discipline is I'm sacrificing the things that I want right now for the things that I want most. And then it becomes easy, because what you have to do is you have this. Not only do I have a vision for where I want to go, but I've spent time with my partner understanding that we have a collaborative vision for something. And I understand her vision for what her needs and where she wants to go. Now we can start making progress.
Yeah, I love that.
Hopefully that some of that stuff kind of resonated today.
Yeah, this is like building the foundation for getting to those spots. Yeah.
I think that and the next thing we're going to build on from here is like removing some of the sin barriers in your marriage, because like that's a hard one to start with, right? Because I mean, I feel like that's one of the major prerequisites to being able to like get close with someone, like, or like be able to have like be able to have
that depth of intimacy, the better sex life, or whatever it is that you're trying to get to in your marriage. Yeah, we have to start by stripping away some of the things
the things that are barriers between the two of us,
that are blocking us from being close.
So that's what we'll talk about next time. And we thank you for joining us another podcast episode here.
We didn't do our intro. You're on the podcast with Dino and Ashley. Makes me laugh every time.